George, how the hell are you? Nice to see you. You're bad. We're across the street from the famous House of Blues club that you played many times here in West Hollywood, and you played a couple of nights ago.
Well, that was kind of an accident. It was,
I didn't know you were going to be down there. I read about it in the paper. Tell us about that. It sounds cool.
Well, it was advertised as a benefit. The late, great Carl Perkins passed away, unfortunately, as you know, and they threw together a benefit in his name for abused children. The House of Blues did, and the featured artists were Johnny Rivers and Dwight Yoakam. I've been a Johnny Rivers fan. Everybody's a Johnny Rivers fan, and I said that if whenever he plays, and he doesn't play that often.
No, he doesn't.
And I really had to see this. You got to see all the legends, and to me, Johnny Rivers is a legend. And I was watching the show, having a wonderful time. And I bumped into a guy who was his stage manager and tour manager, and he said, "Would you like to come on the stage and play Blue Suede Shoes with Johnny Rivers?" Well, naturally, I felt like I'd been hit in the kidneys by Jake LaMotta. And I said, "Well, would I like to do Shakespeare with Marlon Brando? Of course I'll play Blue Suede Shoes with Johnny Rivers." Of course, I got up there and couldn't remember how to play it. And Stephen Stills was there, and Graham Nash, and it was just a wonderful night.
Didn't
lead singer from Aerosmith.
Steven Tyler was there too. That's right. That's cool. You played with you love playing with other musicians, don't you? That
No,
seems to be...
it terrifies me.
Come on.
It terrifies
Because you do a lot of that.
I try, but I'm without my own band, I'm a little lost. I get up there, and I just get so caught up in it all. I can't remember how to play for some reason. And it's so brief. It's like you're up there for like 80 seconds, and you see there's Johnny Rivers over there, and there's Stephen Stills, and there's Dwight Yoakam, Waddy Wachtel, and these cats, and by the time I can collect myself, the song is over.
I was doing a little research on the internet this afternoon about you, and I read that when you started out, when you were playing in a band at the beginning, you backed up a lot of visiting blues players would come to town, right?
More like the other way around. We traveled to places like Boston, pretty much the Boston area,
right?
Philadelphia, and we would open for our band would open.
Oh, I see.
For the band. Originally, the drummer and I wanted to be like Chuck Berry's backup band. Because he always paid like a minimum salary to his bands, and some of the bands didn't work out all that hot, and we really wanted to do that, and didn't quite work out.
I've heard from some funny stories from people who talk about Chuck Berry coming to town. The promoters will bring him in, and they'll pay him all this money to come in for the concert. He'll meet the backup band 20 minutes before he goes out on stage, and he'll say, "Look, if you don't know how to play Johnny Be Good by now, get the hell off the stage.
Correct.
And just
correct.
Just follow my lead.
Yeah,
and rather you play with him."
It's really true. Chuck Berry's music. It's like it's not an ego thing. He says when he says that to people. It's the roots of the whole thing. Chuck, you're right. Johnny Be Good. That lick. Can you imagine a time in our society when that lick didn't exist?
No.
But there was a time when it didn't.
And he invented it.
A writer, actually his piano player and Jimmy Johnson. He used to play a blues lick on the piano.
It's astounding. It just seems like
and
everything
he played.
since
So
then.
Chuck picked that up. But a writer once wrote that. Said, "Can you imagine a time when that didn't?
That's crazy.
It wasn't with us. It's like saying like a time when the wheel wasn't around."
It does seem like everything that has come after that owes at least some small debt to that, and a lot of the other great musicians that you have always been so outspoken and admiring, and musicians that you've covered over the years. We are going to take our first question from somebody who's actually watching us from around the world. As you know, here on liveconcerts.com, you can watch. That's you in the screen over there.
See, I apologize for these dark glasses, but these lights are very bright.
It's awfully bright in here. People who are watching and listening to us, George, are actually going to be sending us questions during the interview. Plus, we've got a stack that have come in from the last couple of days because people knew you were going to be here. So I have not seen this yet. Let's see. Good evening, George. At what point did you decide on a career in music rather than in baseball, and why? And this is from Bellingham, Massachusetts. You played semi-pro ball, is that right?
I was about, it was in the late 60s, early 70s. Three things kept me out of the big leagues. I couldn't hit, run, or throw. so I saw John Hammond playing in a place in New York, and I said, better get to work. Better get busy.
You love baseball, though?
Yeah.
Are you a fan of the sport today?
Just a fan.
Yeah. A lot of people have been so discouraged by it over the past few years. It breaks hearts with all the changes they've made in it over the years,
It does, but it's still exciting when the ball goes over the fence. It's still exciting when the guy makes the big catch.
When you got the band together and you realized it wasn't going to work out in baseball, what was the when you lay in bed there and dream and think the best it was going to get? What was your goal? Was it to make a record? Was it that as far as it went?
the actor, you know the actor Samuel L. Jackson?
Sure.
He said something very profound once. He said, when you're in high school, you're practicing your Academy Award speech. Then you get out of high school and you say, I want to go into theater. Then you go, if I could do just a little TV walk-on.
Right.
Then finally you get to the point you say, if I could get a commercial.
Then I'd be made it.
And that's when things start to happen for you. So I kind of went that cycle. I would then, what I knew was essential to get me where I had to be. My diploma, my what they call your Actors Guild card was an album. You had to get a record. That was the deal.
Was it always the blues? Was that always the kind of music that you wanted to play, that you knew you were going to make your mark in?
Blues rock. There's about 7 or 8 cats, and I can name them for you. Chuck Berry's one, Bo Diddley's another, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, Steve Miller, Billy Gibbons. Those cats, I kind of followed what they did. They set it up for me. I said, well, if that's how it's done, that's how I'm going to do it. I'm a fond person of saying I never wrote the book, but I sure read the book.
Right. And you see what they do with their career, and you figure that's working.
I said I guess that's the way you do it. It's like an actor saying, well, I have to learn some Tennessee Williams, or I have to learn some whatever, and I was the same way. I said, well, I have to learn blues. Robert Johnson. I said, that's what these guys are doing. I guess that's the way it's done.
To tell you the truth, I owe you a debt of gratitude, because when I bought, I guess it was the Move It On Over album, it was the first time I'd ever heard that song. And that's the song that introduced me to Hank Williams. And from then on, I went, just crazy for Hank Williams. To this day, he's probably my favorite songwriter of all time. And it's, you have to pick it up where you can get it.
Yeah.
And you have introduced so many people to that kind of music, and it's a credit to you.
Thank you. Hank Williams is,
the most economical songwriter of all time.
And economical. And there's only a handful of cats. There's his work, of course, Barry's work, Dylan, Lennon, McCartney. One of the greatest of all time is John Fogerty. You try to match that catalog.
I saw you a couple of times. I saw you opening for the Rolling Stones in 1981. Do you hate doing those huge stadium shows? You were talking about being nervous around the big stars sometimes. Opening for the Stones, is that too much pressure, or is that just fun for you?
Well, let's just say, if I was a rookie, that was like playing in the World Series with Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, and Mickey Mantle. No, it was absolutely fantastic.
Just a blast.
Just there was nothing to be desired. It was just Bill Graham and the Rolling Stones they just made our life a dream. I don't know if it sound corny or whatever, but it happens to be true. And
when I saw it was Philadelphia, so as much of the crowd was into you as was into the Stones too. I mean, it was a great audience for you to be playing in front of.
That was a good place to break in. That was a good place to get it all started. We were only supposed to do that one show. And every day after the show, we'd be walking around, and the late Mr. Graham would be walking around. He'd talk to our agent and whisper in his ear, and our agent would come over and say, "What are you doing tomorrow?"
You want to go to Cleveland with us?
Yeah, right. Nothing.
Let's talk about another famous tour of yours, the 50-50 tour. How long? What is that? About 80? What year was that? You did that?
81.
1981. The plan was that you were going to play all 50 states on 50 consecutive nights.
Right.
Good idea? Bad idea?
Bad idea.
Really?
Bad idea. Bad idea. We had the thing planned, and we were getting ready to do it, and then all those Rolling Stones things happened, and Bill Graham said, well, can George come to Madison Square Garden to play with the Rolling Stones? And our agent said, well, no, he's playing in Wisconsin that night in a bar with 150 people, and he's got his 50-50 tour he has to do.
Right.
And we'll check with you later.
Oh, wow. So what did you do? Did you keep with the tour?
Yeah, we did. We actually, while the tour was on, Bill Graham set up a show for us to be part of the tour. Oh. We didn't set one up. It happened to coincide. It was, and he got us in New Orleans to play with him. And then right after the thing was done, we flew right to Arizona and kept right on playing. So we actually did about 60 dates in about 61 days, 62 days. Because right after that, we went right to Arizona, Kansas City, right over to Virginia, and kept right on playing with the Stones.
That is astounding. So about 35 nights in, though, you're just kicking yourself, right?
Well, what happened was about the 4th night, the guy that drove us, he said, this is really amazing. I was like a bet. He bet me. I said, well, if you can drive it, I can play it.
There you go.
And he said 50 states, but he didn't mean all of them back to back. I misunderstood the man completely. And he said, it's really great you're doing this consecutively. And I went, well, wasn't that the plan? He said, no, I thought you'd just do all 50. I said, oh, now you tell me.
Here's a question that was received earlier today on liveconcerts.com. And by the way, while we're talking about George and playing live on stage at 6:30 West Coast time, right here on the same channel, we'll see a concert that you did at the House of Blues across the street. last month here in Los Angeles, so please stick around for that. You've probably been asked this before, but Michael from Hillsborough, North Carolina asks, are you really bad to the bone?
Really bad to the bone. That's a good question, Michael. I'll set the record straight. I really think there's just two schools of writing songs. There's reality and there's fantasy. And reality is what that is, you know, and there's fantasy. John Lennon's song, Imagine, was fantasy. Let me imagine a world like that. And there's songs like he wrote probably for his wife, which he said he loved her and everything. That's reality. I just took that same thing. Bad to the bone is fantasy. Every guy wants to be Errol Flynn.
You're just a badass, right?
Yeah, and I'm a regular guy. You know, I mean, everybody wants to say, you know, I'm that guy. Oh, look at me, I'm Clint Eastwood.
Right.
You know, but how am I going to say I'm as far as I said, well, people will like this. They'll think that's kind of cool.
Did you know when you worked out that riff? This is a great riff. I mean, that's the most famous riff probably that ever came out of your guitar, I would imagine.
Well, it didn't come out of my guitar. It's a pretty standard riff, actually. And we did that thing, and we actually thought about some other people when we put that thing together. We were hoping like maybe Muddy Waters would do it, or maybe Bo Diddley. That didn't quite work out, so I said, well, I guess we'll do it.
It worked out okay for you. And who was it who was in the video with you on that?
Bo Diddley and Willie Moscone.
That's right. That's right. This last few months has been awful for blues fans because several great blues players have passed away. Junior Wells, most recently, I guess. A bunch of others have. Do you see is the pond being replenished with fans of blues and blues rock? I mean, do you see a lot of young people coming up that are as into it as you were when you were coming up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're into it.
It's still out there. Are there some young people that you like that you follow or admire?
Young people that I follow and admire.
There are headlines. You'll see Johnny Lang will get a good gig or something like that. Some of these real young people. But who are some other names that we ought to know about?
You tell me.
You're the expert, George. It's your field.
But I see. I'm still busy catching up. You see, my time is limited. I have to still see Johnny Rivers. I still have to see Bob Seger. I still haven't, got that done yet.
You'll leave that for the next guys to come after you, right? That's their job.
Whatever happens. But I'm still looking. I'm still half 1 foot on the stage, 1 foot off the stage.
Right. How about John Lee Hooker? Is he still well and in good health?
Yes, he is. I'm happy to say.
Is he in this new Blues Brothers movie that I heard about?
Probably.
Do you know if he's in that?
Probably. I haven't seen it yet. He probably is.
Do you stay in touch with guys like that you've worked with?
I try to. I talk to Elvin Bishop every now and again. I try to go see John Hammond.
That's cool.
John Lee was just in town. He was getting a star put on the,
Walk of Fame?
Something like that, yeah. And he got a star put on there, went and witnessed that. So
that's cool.
I try to keep in touch as much as possible.
Let's try to get a few more questions out. Any thought, says Jules Altman from San Gabriel, California, any thoughts on a George Thorogood box set?
Well, you have to talk to EMI Capital about that.
What is the status of your label situation?
Well, that's a good question. That's a real good question. That's unresolved at this point.
So really you're just kind of still in negotiations, basically.
Something like that, yeah.
The last album that came out was on EMI, right? That was just last year, The Rock of My Life.
Yeah.
And after that, the company folded. I guess
did.
pretty much.
It did.
So that leaves some people out in the dark a little bit. You've had 2 live albums so far.
Yes, sir.
Why did you want to commit the live show to a record? Did you think it could be properly experienced that way?
It was a contractual obligation.
Oh, really?
It was in the thing. We want to produce a Destroyers live album, and we just followed the contract to the letter.
Many years ago, we were talking about songwriting a minute ago. This question comes from Washington State. Many years ago, your stance on songwriting was all the good songs have already been written, therefore I don't write my own.Id you say something like that?
I did.
A stance that I really admired, by the way. What I would ask you is, what happened in your career that thankfully changed that?
Oh, thankfully? I tell you, I just was fooling around. I played these things, and the guys in the band said, play that. Write that.
Right.
Do that, or we will kill you. So I would just do it, and I'd say, well, let's check it out live, and people started dancing to it.
Good sign.
Yeah,
for a bar band.
Exactly. And I said, okay, that one stays. And then one thing led to another. So, well, how about this? And no. Then how about this one? And it's just went. And also, we ran out of material. We got to the point where we said, we got to put something else on the album here.
Right.
We've got 3 Bo Diddley songs, 12 Chuck Berry songs. I said, we still need a couple more. Where would we get them? And the guys in my band would put the guitar in my hand and put a pen and paper in my hand, lock me in my room. Don't come out. Do your homework.
You mentioned the band, the Delaware Destroyers. 20 years, 22 years? How long has it been you've been playing with some of these guys?
Quite a while, Bean.
That's astounding.
Yes, it is.
I mean, there's a lot of groups can't stay together 5 now, you know? How do you, how does it work so well? Because you guys work a lot. It's not like Pink Floyd, the guys only have to see each other every 3 or 4 years. I mean, you guys are a hard-working road band.
We got together about 10 years ago and said, you know, how do you want to do this thing? How do you want to keep it together? Everybody said they did. I said, well, then we got to do one or two things here. We can be like some other bands, go burn it out in a year and a half. And then at the end of the tour, we'll probably hate each other, never want to see each other again. Mm-hmm. And then go, or we can break it up in gaps. We decided to break it up in gaps. A 6-week tour here, there, a 5-week tour there, go open for a ZZ Top or for a Allman Brothers there. And that's really what we've been doing. Well, that's been our code, so to speak, to keep the thing together. And plus, you know, for the rest of the guys in the band, it must be financially successful or they would have been gone by now.
Sure. So you have a way to kind of be working all the time, but still having enough time off to enjoy yourself.
Well, you have to do that way. You can't leave it alone for too long or it'll go away. And then, but if you overdo it, I mean, you know, the songs are still fresh to us. We play these songs we've been playing for a long time, and they're fresh because we haven't beat them to death. It's
funny you talk about the songs you've been playing for a long time. Here's a question that just came in. How long have you been playing guitar? How old were you when you started, George?
A lot younger than I am now.
Were you like 5?
No, I didn't start playing the guitar till I was almost 21.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
Because of the baseball, probably, huh?
No, just no confidence. I mean, listen to some of the guitar players I grew up with. I mean, let me tell you, there was Jimi Hendrix, there was Johnny Winter, there was Elvin Bishop. These are the greatest guitar players in the world. Carlos Santana. I mean, you're going to find a better guitar player than that. So I was saying, I don't think I'll do that.
It either inspires you or it intimidates you, I guess.
Right.
And on your One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer song, did you just play and make up the riffs as you went along? Or is that the way it was written?
It's a combination of 2 songs. It's a combination of John Lee Hooker's House Rent Boogie and Bourbon, Scotch, and Beer. And we kind of combined those 2 songs and made our own arrangement.
Here's one coming out of Canada tonight. I was just wondering, what was the first album you bought? Do you remember?
Oh, just like everybody else. Meet the Beatles.
Meet the Beatles.
I mean, everybody else in the world, you know.
George, do you have a favorite author? What are you reading right now?
My favorite author will always be Steinbeck.
Do you go back periodically and pick up those, read them again?
Occasionally.
Grapes of Wrath and stuff like that?
Well, Cannery Row is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah. I like Bukowski. I think he's kind of funny. Mm-hmm. But Steinbeck's the best. Don't you agree?
You know what? I've seen. I had to read those in high school, mm-hmm. but they're not never ones that I went back to. Mm-hmm. But I love the movies. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah.
Did you when you're is that the type of thing that would inspire you to write a song too? I mean, would you be like Bruce Springsteen's? Read the book and mm-hmm. wrote Ghost of Tom Joad. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Does that work that way for you too as a songwriter?
No, it's purely entertainment for me. I read a Steinbeck book and it makes me want to go outside and just breathe the air. Say I'm glad to be here. That's the way he inspires me.
Do you go see very many live shows? Do you enjoy the live music?
It's very tough for me to sit through a live show. It always was. I remember years later, after we'd been playing for a while, I talked to a few friends and said, remember we used to go to the shows? Mm-hmm. And they said, yeah. You would start talking about the show on Monday. You would get us there at 4:30 in the afternoon on Friday. The show would start at 8 o'clock, and at 8:02, we couldn't find you. You'd be out in the parking lot. You'd be bored already. See, because I wanted to play.
Right.
So it has to be something very strong for me to get there. I just saw Tom Jones for the first time.
Did you go to Vegas?
No.
Or was he here?
Right here at the House of Blues.
Oh, yeah?
I'm telling you, man, it was one of the top 5 things I've ever seen. Not just performing. One of the top 5 things I've ever seen. Like I've seen Parliament, the Grand Canyon, the Empire State Building. This was unbelievable.
Astounding, even now, huh?
Astounding. Even I don't know how people could have took him 20 years ago. I mean, he's just. I said I don't see how he. It was breathtaking.
That's an endorsement. I was wondering. This is a very bizarre question, and they were putting these together for me because they knew you were coming in, and maybe there's a reason that this person is asking from Lynchburg, Virginia. George, I was wondering how I could acquire Fiona Apple tickets for her upcoming show at Blacksburg. Any ideas?
For who?
Fiona Apple. If I could acquire these tickets, I'd be much obliged. Thank you for your time. Someone wrote this question to George Thorogood.
Well, I don't work for Ticketmaster.
And they gave it to me, so I assumed you wanted me to read it.
Now that's an original question.
I know it. You've never been asked that one before.
I'm going to have to say I don't know.
Omaha, Nebraska. Is that a town that means anything to you? When are you coming back to Omaha? Do you still stay with your brother John when you come to town?
I haven't played in Omaha for a long time.
Been a while?
I think my brother John can get along without me.
Do you still play a lot of baseball for fun?
It was never fun when I played. It was very hard. That's something after a while. It's more fun to sit in the chair in the air conditioning house and watch it with a glass of iced tea in my hand.
There you go.
That's what I do.
What one of the websites that is just crazy about you on the internet is a guy. Sorry, I know you're out there now because you're a George Thorogood fanatic, in Finland of all places, and seemed very discouraged that there weren't a lot of dates already on the calendar for 1998. What?
Oh dear.
Do you know offhand what kind of year this is going to be for you?
I have no idea at this point.
Any plans at all right now?
No, no plans at all.
You're just chilling.
I'm doing other things that are that have a lot of appeal to me right now, but we're booking concerts. I'm not doing that at this point. There hasn't been a year since I started. I didn't do some kind of work every year. I'm sure something will come up.
Well, you proved it 2 nights ago, being in the audience, and they dragged you out on stage. So they can't.
They didn't drag me. Believe me, they didn't drag me.
They can't keep.
They might have had to drag me off the stage. They didn't drag me on.
All right, let's see if we can squeeze in a couple more before we go, because we're almost out of time. Is it true that you were a street musician in San Francisco?
That's absolutely correct.
Is that a
That's
fact?
how I started. It's pretty funny. It was just up in San Francisco playing recently, and we were playing at the Fillmore. And it was a packed house. And the night before, I looked out the window, and I said, I'm playing at the Fillmore. I don't know if that means anything to you.
Oh, no, believe me. I've read enough rock to know what a significant thing that is for a musician.
This is it, because when I started, these were all the clubs. It was like the Wrigley Fields and Yankee Stadiums of the whole thing. As I progressed and we did better, these clubs vanished. Now the Fillmore is back open. Now the night before I'm playing at the Fillmore, I look out the window and I see the street corner I used to play on.
Wow.
And the next night I'm playing at the Fillmore. I said, it might have taken me, 27 years to do it, but I got here. So that's
awesome.
That's how I started.
All right, let's close with this one. What is the song that you most like to play on stage?
All of them.
Still, huh? Which one do you think your fans like the most? Which one do you get the most requests for?
I don't know. Why don't you ask them?
Well, I'm sure they can send it in. They'll compile something like that on one of your websites.
They did just do that recently. They did
a list of their favorite George Thorogood
We
songs?
asked them to do that, to send in, and I would appreciate something like that about every 3 months.
George, by the way, is going to get a computer in about 25 years. So save your emails and save your list and your set suggestions, because 25 years from now, when they design the ultimate computer,
one where I don't have to do anything.
Right, exactly. You're going to be all over it. Well, you're a terrific guy, George. It's great to meet you. Really.